Thank you for watching part 2. One thing that can be confusing is different grades of leather. And as I said before, if you pick a reputable manufacturer that has a good tanning process, then you're in good shape. One of the things that manufacturers do is they'll go grade different grades, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, and it can be confusing. And what's actually happening is they talk about one of the grades has bug bites, and that's the lower grades. The grades with no bug bites, that's the higher grades. One thing that's happened because leather has gotten scarcer and scarcer over the years that I'm not sure that holds true. So let me talk about something that a way you can test it and a way we can make sure that our customers get the best possible leather available to them. So we get a reputable manufacturer, it's got a good history, somebody we can trust, and we know we have a good tanning process. And just like this chair over here that's 50 years old, leather will really last if we maintain it and we take care of it. So that's what we want to focus on. So, no, this is a chair over here, but it's going to represent metal on our car. No one ever said, hey, let me oil the metal on your car. Or I have this new product that takes care of the metal on your car. No one ever said that, because we all know that metal has a color coating and a clear coating on top of it. It's exactly the same with leather. There used to be a few leathers out there with no protection on top of them, and there may be a couple today that may be suedes or there may be sanded leathers, but 99% of all leather today is going to have a coating on top of it. So the coatings on top of the leather are what we're concerned about, not necessarily with the grades on the leather. So let's talk about coatings on top of leather. So as we saw before, what happens with this leather, if it's only aniline dyed or green piece of leather, it stains very easy. Hair oil, arm oil, leg oils, very easily soiled. Okay. So what the manufacturer does is he takes green color and he sprays this green piece of leather. And this color is a protection in itself. It's not a dye. The molecules on it are larger than a dye. It doesn't go all the way through the leather. It stays on the top, and it is a coating on top of it. We get the green coating first, and then we get our most important coating, our clear coating. Now somewhere in the middle, they may decide to put a print coat on it or make it a mottled piece of leather. Like this is mottled. You probably can't see it very well. This red piece is mottled. This chair over here is mottled. It has what we call a basin print on it. So they may spray the green, and then they may spray a little darker print to give it a mottled. And then the last thing they do is they will spray a clear coat on top of it. Our job is to keep this clear coating intact, and we will talk about that. So if I have a piece of leather with a lot of bug bites on it, then I may spray a little extra heavy duty green coating on here, and I may even take a machine and emboss it and make the grain look even everywhere. If I make the grain look even everywhere, then it's pleasing to the customer's eye. So that could be an embossed grain. But to have an embossed grain, I need a heavy coating to be able to emboss the coating, so the clear coat and the color coat. So how do we know the different grades of leather? How do we know what that terminology means? Typically, the leathers that they have to put more coatings on top of feel more like plastic. The leathers that they have to put less coatings on feel more like leather. But everything is going to have a coating on top of it. So we have the Chihuahua of leathers with not very much coating, very easily stained. So say we might have our green piece here. We know it's easily stained, so we may put just a little bit of green on it, a little bit of clear coat. We may even not put any green at all on top of it and just put a little bit of clear coat. So if we have a little bit of clear coat, then it becomes a Chihuahua of leathers. It becomes a silk blouse of leathers. Very easily stained. Okay, not quite as easily stained as when it came out of the aniline dye because we put a little bit of a clear coat on top of it. So we can keep adding color coating and clear coat until it feels less and less like leather and more like a piece of plastic. So the more coatings we put on top of it, the heavier use it can stand. The less coatings we put on top of it, the more it is like a silk blouse, jean jacket. Chihuahua, Great Danes of leathers. So, excuse me. Let me tell you an easy way to test your leathers. Moisten your finger and rub the leather. If it darkens up, that means it doesn't have very much of a coating on it, not very much protection. Now, I can't remember which one of these leathers was the one with the coating on it because they look very similar. So I'm rubbing this leather, this one darkens up almost immediately. Typically, rub it 10 times. And if it darkens up anywhere in those 10 times, it's probably not a good selection for furniture that would be in any kind of a medium traffic area because you'll have an unhappy customer. He won't be able to clean it, he won't be able to take care of it. Now, if I rub my leather with protection on it, I could rub it 20 times, but I just rub it 10. Tells me about all I need to know. Nothing happens. It doesn't darken up at all. We have the stain on this one. We have no stain on our leather with a protection on it. Now, it can be any color you'd like to test. It's very simple. You ladies can get a paper towel if you like, or a moist rag. If you rub it, you can tell less protection, more protection. This is another example. We have an unprotected piece of leather. We have a color coating that goes first. We have a clear coating that goes second. And if we wanted to put a base and print on this leather, we would put our color coating, then we would put a print coat on top of that. See how it's darker there? And then we would have our clear coating on top of everything. So 99% of all leathers have a color coat, aniline dyed first. Everything's aniline dyed. That's like saying my car has 4 tires on it. Everything's aniline dyed nowadays. So aniline dyed, color coating, clear coating. It may have color coating, base and print to give it the model look, and then clear coating on top of that. Now, you've heard of top grain leathers. Top grain, remember, the epidermal, okay? Maybe the leather has a lot of graining in it. It can have natural graining in it too. This is mostly natural grain. Although they've sanded, they've done a little bit of artwork on this one. So we have all kinds of different things that they can do on it. The thing to remember, if Joe Sixpack, like me, you know, who has his dogs on his furniture, the kids are running all over the top of it, the grandchildren, you know, it's going to get heavy use. It's going into the den where they're going to use it a lot. Then you'll want to make sure that you get a leather with a heavy protection on top of it. Okay? You don't want to use a leather that doesn't have much protection on top of it. Now, if someone doesn't have any children and they don't plan on using the pieces very often, then they want to put it in their formal room, then a beautiful, soft-feeling leather is going to be great for them. So if we have a customer that's going to use his leather in his formal room, then he doesn't need a leather with a lot of protection. Say if he doesn't have any children, he just doesn't have any pets, he's going to just use it occasionally. He may like the way a fairly unprotected piece of leather feels. A chihuahua of leathers, a silk blouse of leathers, a leather without a lot of protection. You could rub it and it darkened up after 2 or 3 rubs, then that would be okay. But always consider if you're going to put a piece of leather somewhere where it's getting a lot of heavy use, then it needs to be something with a protection on top of it. So if you rub it 10 times and it doesn't darken up, no matter what color, no matter what shade, that's probably going to be a good piece of leather for them. If elderly people are going to choose some leather, and they are going to sit in these, say, their recliners all day long, which is a problem we see a lot, then you're going to want to pick a leather for them that's got a pretty heavy protection on top of it, and they're going to want to clean it on a regular basis, and we'll talk about that. So don't be afraid. Always do the spit test or the water test to find out how much coating, because regardless of what the manufacturer says, this is a surefire test, a way to find out. Now, why are leathers just not quite, don't appear to last as long as they seem to last in the old days? I'll give you an example. It used to be 15, 20 years ago, they would take a piece of leather, a finished leather with a piece of coating like this one, and they would put it inside a flex machine before it ever went to the public, before it was ever sold, and it would flex back and forth 100,000 times. And if it made it through the 100,000 times, then it would be sold to the customers. Nowadays, I don't know of many leathers that would make it through the 100,000 flex test. So they don't put it on a machine anymore. They don't flex it. There just doesn't seem to be that kind of quality control that we used to have. So remember when we split our leather, when we cut off the bottom of this epidermal, and maybe we made a split piece of leather from it, and then on the bottom of the split piece of leather there's other leather that they may split off. Well, they take that other piece of leather that they split off, the other crumblings, everybody knows what presswood is, pressboard is. They take a sawdust and they glue it together. Well, now with bonded and die-cast leather, they take all the leftover shavings, they take all the splits that they can't use, and they grind them all up in a grinder. So they just grind them up and make these powdered pieces out of them. And then they spray the most heavy-duty coatings imaginable on top of this sawdust leather, okay? And it's called bonded or die-cast leather. And it's affordable, and it's a good deal, and I don't want to talk completely bad about it because it's just the difference in a price option. It's one price option for the aniline dyed protected piece of chrome leather. There's the less expensive option, especially works well on dining room chair and on non-flexible areas. But if this leather gets put somewhere where it flexes, imagine 100,000 times, it doesn't last 10,000 times. So here's a piece of leather that we cannot tear. These pieces of leather are very strong because they come from the epidermal. They're high quality, top grain leather. Look what happens to this. This die-cast piece of leather. What we did is we put a real piece of leather on top of the chairs for these folks. I guess they'd had them 6 or 7 years, so they got good use out of this die-cast piece of leather. So as long as it's not in the flex area, that flexes a lot, then it's going to hold up well. But that is a choice that you all will be able to make when helping your customers with it. So thank you for watching this second part. Please join us for the third part of our little video series. Thank you.